Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, where I cover vampires, werewolves, and other supernatural creatures. In this video, we're going to take a look at the highly stylized movie Ultraviolet that came out in 2006 starring Milla Jovovich. I want to explore the biological experiments that led to the vampire race known as Hemophages, their biology, and the blood wars. I will be referencing the movie obviously, but also the book because it's a direct movie adaptation that explains a lot of stuff the movie never got a chance to. So let's dive into the vampires known as Hemophages from Ultraviolet. If you enjoy videos about vampires and other supernatural creatures, leave a like and subscribe for new videos every week.
I was born into a world you might not understand.
The movie Ultraviolet takes place in the late 21st century. The trouble all began when an American weapons company discovered an obscure virus that had been around for centuries. They tried to modify the virus and use it to create faster and stronger soldiers. Unfortunately, they accidentally created a much more contagious version of the virus, a strain called HGV, the hemophagic virus. Heme is something found in blood, and the word phage means to destroy, devour, or consume. So hemophagic virus basically means blood-eating virus. The original version of the virus was not contagious at all. If somebody got it, there was no way for it to spread to someone else. But this new version they created was so contagious, coming into contact with any bodily fluid will cause infection instantly. Once exposed to the virus, you will convert. The person will go into a death-like paralysis for several hours, and then awaken as a hemophage. This much more contagious virus quickly escaped the lab and fear spread around the world. The medical establishment tries to protect the public, at first requiring infected persons to register themselves, then to wear a red armband. Eventually, all infected were put into camps and facilities for experimentation. After a while, people stopped hearing from them. The humans' goal is to wipe out the hemophages, and currently all infected are treated like America's Most Wanted. We are never told what kind of experiments they were doing on the hemophages. Most likely they were trying to find a cure of some kind, but when that didn't work, they moved on to extermination. Some hemophages managed to escape the facilities and started a resistance, including the main character, Violet Song Jat Sharif. This was the beginning of what came to be known as the Blood Wars. We get to see how Violet was originally turned into a hemophage. We are not told exactly what happened, only shown a short clip. Her husband was a doctor, and it appears a hemophage broke into the building. Violet's husband begins struggling with the man when a police officer walks in and shoots the infected person. This caused some blood to land on Violet, infecting her. Around the time of her infection, she had just become pregnant. Unfortunately, her pregnancy was terminated when she was being experimented on. This is what ultimately leads her to hating the Arch Ministry and being an active member in the Resistance. What are the differences between humans and hemophages? Well, the hemophages are essentially vampires. They even use the word vampire in the book and movie. They are not undead like most vampires from other media. They are living, breathing people infected with a virus. Those who are infected look almost identical to humans aside from their pale skin and elongated canines. Their fangs are apparently caused by the massive increase in bone density and dentin in the body when infected. As far as abilities, hemophages have increased strength and speed, able to fight off dozens of humans and kill all these guards in the blink of an eye. Their healing ability can heal most minor wounds very quickly. Deep wounds will completely heal in a few hours. The Arch Ministry performs tests on people to confirm they are human, and one of these tests is a needle that punctures the wrist. If someone is a hemophage, they will instantly be able to detect tissue repair. They also test the blood, eyes, and metabolism.
Metabolic sensing to make certain your metabolism is within human range.
Like most vampires, hemophages need blood to survive. Except, these vampires don't actually drink the blood. Instead, they get blood transfusions to keep them alive. The hemophagic virus cripples the body's ability to regenerate blood platelets. This is what causes them to look pale and anemic, and is also the reason they require regular blood transfusions. We see a hemophage drinking coffee, so it seems they can consume normal food, and probably need to in order to survive, since the blood is not for nutritional value. Blood platelets are also mentioned in the first Underworld movie. I wonder if Ultraviolet was inspired by Underworld in some ways. I never really noticed before, but they both have a distinct biological vampire virus and a strong female lead. You might be wondering, do hemophages have any traditional vampire weaknesses? And the answer is kinda. They are not weak to holy objects, silver, or garlic, but we are told that some hemophages convert with light sensitivity. Violet converted with medium light sensitivity. This allows her to walk in the sun with no issues. But some vampires have high light sensitivity, which means they can only be in the sun for short periods of time. And their eyes are also very sensitive to light, which is why we see some vampires wearing sunglasses. In the book, people who were infected early on would walk around with coverings over their whole body and umbrellas to protect themselves from the sun. Violet is kind of a special case. A freak among freaks, as she puts it. She is in the end stages of the virus, but still has only medium light sensitivity. Usually, the longer someone has HGV, the more sensitive to light they become. In the movie, we see that vampires with high light sensitivity can see better in the dark, so it's kind of like a blessing and a curse.
Can you see me, Violet?
The sunlight is definitely not as deadly to these vampires as it is to many others, but the hemophages do have one glaring weakness, and that's the virus itself. Although the hemophagic virus grants some supernatural abilities, it also causes the person's metabolism to accelerate aggressively. This increase in cellular activity takes a big toll on the person's body. It's never mentioned in the movie at all, but the book specifically states that once someone is infected, they will have about 10 years to live if they are lucky. So these vampires are far from immortal. Their increased metabolism causes vampires to have a very high body temperature and heart rate. The average body temperature of a vampire is 107 degrees, and they have a resting heart rate of 150 beats per minute. In comparison, a human has a body temperature of around 98 degrees and a resting heart rate of around 50 to 70 beats per minute. This means the vampire's body is always running on full blast, which could be what gives them their enhanced physical abilities. It's been about 10 years since the outbreak. We know this because Violet was infected right around the beginning of the outbreak, and she is now in the terminal stages of the virus, meaning it's roughly 10 years later. We are told that the hemophages are on the brink of extinction, and the Archministry is going to push them over the edge. It makes sense they would be going extinct 10 years later, because almost everyone that was infected in the initial mass outbreak would be reaching the end stage of the virus. At the beginning of the movie, we see a group of vampires try to break into the Archministry blood bank. At first, the detectives think they're there to steal the blood, but they realize that they are actually trying to infect the blood. That way, everyone that received a blood transfusion would become a hemophage, raising their numbers. I don't really understand their logic here of why they would want to infect more people, but maybe they think if they create a lot more hemophages that they'll be forced to find a cure. The group responsible for hunting down the vampires is the government, also known as the Archministry. Their headquarters is in the shape of a giant cross. I guess every vampire movie has to have some kind of religious reference. Similar to Priest, this movie has religious themes, but it has absolutely nothing to do with the vampires. Anyway, we are told that the Archministry has developed a weapon that can destroy all hemophages, so Violet is sent in to steal it. Like I said earlier, Violet is in the terminal stages of hemophagia, which is why she was sent on this extremely dangerous mission. Violet breaks into the top-secret Archministry building by using fake credentials and posing as a courier. She also uses a special kind of chemical that made her appear as a human even under testing. Whatever this was, it suppressed her vampire abilities temporarily so they couldn't detect her healing or heightened metabolism. We are told in the book that light sensitivity is the only thing that can't be chemically suppressed. It's a good thing that Violet doesn't have high light sensitivity. As soon as Violet gets her hands on the weapon, the courier she was pretending to be shows up, and this alerts the guards. She now has to fight her way out against an army of men, but does manage to get away. Violet is very adept at fighting, but she also uses a special device known as a gravity leveler. We are not told exactly how it works, but it allows Violet to alter gravity and stick to the walls or ceilings, even when on her motorcycle. She is told not to look in the case under any circumstance, but she does. When she opens the case, it doesn't look like any weapon Violet has ever seen before. It's a human child. The hemophage known as Nerva says the child has cultured antigens in his body, and if they were put in the atmosphere, it would kill all hemophages. So naturally, they want to kill the boy. However, Violet thinks if there's antigens, then the cure to hemophagia could also be in the child's blood. This leads her to betraying the hemophages and saving the boy. hoping that his blood will be the key to saving herself. You can tell throughout the movie that the boy named Six becomes the surrogate son that Violet wasn't able to have. Later, Violet brings the boy to a hemophage scientist to see if he could be the answer to the cure. But to their surprise, there is no HGV antigens in his body. Whatever he is, it's not a weapon against hemophages or a cure. There's also a protein in his body that's killing him. At this point, he only has hours left to live. Violet later finds out that the boy doesn't have vampire antigens. Instead, he has human antigens. The Arch-Ministry is trying to infect all humans with the same thing that the boy is suffering from. But why would they want to kill the human population? Well, basically, the Arch-Ministry did their job, and now vampires are nearly extinct. Actually, according to Vice Cardinal Daxus, they did their job too well. Now, without the fear of hemophages, he needs something else to keep people in line. People that, given the chance, would sprint toward chaos like an Olympic event. For the past 10 years, Vice Cardinal Ferdinand Daxus has overseen the development of a lethal human antigen by the Latter-day Defense Laboratories. The boy 6 is actually one of 8 clones of Daxus. Their plan is to isolate the antigen in 6's body and release it into the atmosphere. Then, if you want to live, you will have to report to the Arch-Ministry daily for a dose of the antidote. This would obviously give the Arch-Ministry complete power, literally deciding who lives and who dies.
We did our job too well. Now, must we make amends?
Presumably the Cardinal is the leader, but we only get to see the Vice Cardinal Ferdinand Daxus. We find out that his backstory is quite interesting. He was actually one of the scientists working on the development of the HGV virus. Unfortunately, while in the lab, he accidentally infected himself. Somehow, he was able to keep his infection a secret, which is surprising because the Arch-Ministry does rigorous testing. Not only did he keep it a secret, he managed to work his way to the top of the Arch-Ministry and is now in charge. This is a pretty big twist when we find out that Daxus is really a hemophage, but it explains why he wouldn't be worried about a human antigen being released. It also explains how he was able to easily shoot 3 other hemophages before they could even react. Is there a cure to the hemophage virus? We are not shown a working cure in the movie, but it's implied that one exists. When the boy 6 was being tested on, he started writing a bunch of chemical equations on a piece of paper. Garth finds it and says he knows it has something to do with the HGV virus, and at the end of the film, 6 confirms that there is a cure. The reason he knows about it is because they must have been developing the hemophage cure in the same laboratory that he was created in. Why they decided to never use the cure is a mystery. At the end of the film, Violet manages to defeat Daxus and accidentally finds a way to save 6. 6 was dying from the human antigens that were put in his body, and he was in his final moments. Violet is holding him and begins to cry. One of her tears falls onto 6, which turns him into a hemophage, which is apparently just what his system needed to keep going. For another 10 years anyway. Maybe if they can figure out the cure that 6 wrote down, they can both be saved. That's my video on the hemophages from Ultraviolet. Let me know what you guys think of this movie. Something I didn't mention before is that this movie appears to be based off a comic. In the opening sequence of the movie, we are shown a bunch of comic book covers. But there actually is no Ultraviolet comic book. So basically, it's a comic book movie based on a comic that doesn't exist, which is a little strange. Personally, I've always enjoyed the unique take on the vampire virus. The world and lore within it is interesting, but the dialogue in the movie can be hard to watch at times, and so much stuff isn't explained. They mention things in passing like this flat space dimension compressing sword sheath, but don't explain it at all. It's even more of a shame when you realize that the extended cut that came out later is much better than the original. But even that had a lot of story cut out. The best version of the story is the novel, which has everything that wasn't included in the movie and is a much better story and has its characters much more fleshed out. Long story short, if you're gonna watch the movie, watch the extended version, but if you're really interested, then read the book. If there's any other movies or TV shows you want me to cover, please leave them in the comments below as I always read through them. I'm already trying to think of some ideas for October because it's coming up pretty quickly. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't. It helps out a lot and I really appreciate it. Once again, a big thank you to all my members for supporting the channel. Roderick, Jason Miller, Cyper2890, Zothras Paradox, Adam Mokabe, Gabriel Ragsdale, Matthew Batson, Dragon Faye Rose, Emily Nixon, Onyx Cat, Jake Walker, Mark Thorpe, Awesome Pea Shooter, Steven556, Owen Wildish, and Joseph Roman. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.